eventually people are going to say, what the hell is going on?
No matter how far you go into the dark, when you flip, you go exactly the same place to the light. In our galaxy, everything. Because everything is in balance. Everything is a polarity.
I think it's just going to get weirder and weirder and weirder, and finally it's going to be so weird that people are going to have to talk about how weird it is.
What the hell is going on? GM, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Oh, that doesn't look too good. Well, we might have to deal with that because, you know, we should have fixed that earlier, but we didn't. How are we all, team? Now, we've actually got a little change to the stream tonight, something that I'm testing for the first time. So we've set up, I noticed in the previous live streams that there was a big delay between when I would ask a question, between when I would see your responses. It was like 15 seconds, which is not the end of the world, but it would make it a little bit difficult to have flowing conversation, right? I've tried to make a few changes and hopefully that's going to be fixed today. So hopefully the interaction is a little bit smoother, but if there's anything wrong with the stream, it's probably because I've made some tweaks. But hey, we're learning as we go. We're learning as we go, and I'm learning that this camera needs to just come a tiny bit higher. All right. So there's been a new whistleblower. There's a new whistleblower on the block. His name is Matthew Brown, and this guy is allegedly the author of the Immaculate Constellation document. So the document that got handed to Congress at the last UAP hearing, the document that, you know, Michael Schellenberger wrote, but actually Michael Schellenberger delivered, but actually Jeremy Corbell delivered it. I don't know. There's a whole bunch of weird shit going on with this document, right? But this is the guy who apparently wrote it. This is the Pentagon. This is the CIA insider. Okay. So, incredible video. This guy is a hero. I'm just slow. Let's fucking go. Hi, Josh, weirdos. We've actually got a few weirdos in the chat already. Christina Mazinski, hopefully I said that right. Tamara, James, D, Rob Stewart. I know when I opened this up, I saw Jared in here like 3 hours before we went live. I respect that. I respect a man who's early. Heidi Stanley in the chat. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Hope we're all doing well, guys. So let's get straight into this. We've got a whole bunch of clips to look at. So this guy is former Pentagon, former intelligence agency official. Didn't say what intelligence agency he was talking about, which was interesting, but we can probably guess. Now, these clips, we've got a lot of clips, probably going to be a pretty long stream today. These clips are these clips are taken from part 1 of a 3-part interview that's coming. And just the stuff that we got in this part 1 is pretty crazy. So if we just jump over here, we've got all the clips lined up. We've got a few things to go through here. I think let's just jump straight into the clips, and that way we can I'll try not to pause them too much, but I can't make any promises. But we'll just kind of talk about them as we go.
Well, if it was just technology that we are worried about protecting and maintaining a military advantage, there's strong arguments to be made and have successfully been made for decades in this country that the American leadership and American people seem to be finding acceptable to be left in the dark about where science, technology, and their military is taking them. This isn't just technology. This isn't something somebody came up with in a lab and it's sensitive because once the cats have the bag, anybody can do it. Fundamentally, this comes from and is secondary to what we've been told is the biggest question, which is humanity alone? The answer is no. And the secrecy that has been defended is at the cost of, in my mind, human dignity, freedom, and progress. And it is no longer permissible or acceptable in my mind to to continue this course, to deprive another generation of not just Americans, but humanity of their birthright to know who they are, where they came from, and what's with us.
Can you give us a general description of the size of the secrecy apparatus? You know, we're going to drill down into this, of course, about IMCON, in one particular facet of the secrecy that you came across and other parts of it. But how big of a secrecy apparatus is it? How many stovepipes are there? How many people are involved in different ways of keeping this secret, confusing the public, lying to Congress, lying to the world?
Simply put, it's a parallel reality.
That's such a wild quote. We're gonna get into that a little bit more.
The secrecy apparatus is all pervasive. It is not just in the intelligence community governing their world. It's not just in the military protecting their operations. It's not protecting our diplomats and leaders as they conduct their work, sometimes in very dangerous places. It has been allowed to corrupt and infest every aspect of our society to serve the interests and whims of a very elite, select few.
Okay. So there's a lot of, I mean, this is just clip one, and we've got a lot just in that already. So first of all, I mean, the big obvious one was that the biggest question in humanity is that are we alone? And the answer is no. So straight off the bat, we're getting huge revelations from this guy. I mean, not that it's a revelation to us, but a revelation for the conversation. They've defended this secret at the cost of human dignity and progress and depriving another generation of their birthright to know who they are and what's with us. And this is kind of what Tim Gallaudet said at the hearing, is that people have the right to know the true nature of reality. And he referred to what's going on here as a parallel reality, which to me sounds a lot like what Stephen Greer says, which is like what we're dealing with here is a breakaway civilization. And as crazy as that idea sounds, it's actually always resonated with me a lot. And I've done a lot of traveling. And one thing that I've felt when I've traveled is that the world is just so big, and where we all generally spend 95% of our life is in just such a small part of it. You know, I know people who've never even really left their little group of suburbs, like literally, and they're adults. People are just so kind of like caught up in their little world, in their homes, connected to everything online, but they don't actually leave. And the point I'm getting at here is that I think the opportunity for there to be an actual civilization that exists kind of disconnected from ours, but still here, is completely not off the table at all. Like, the world is a big, big place. And if we're talking about people with technology that would appear like magic to us, I think they could exist, you know, in places that don't seem like where a civilization could be. For example, I mean, look at Machu Picchu, right? Everyone talks about the pyramids. Look at Machu Picchu. That Machu Picchu is like over 1 kilometer above sea level, with giant blocks that, like the pyramids, have been put together with no mortar, no binding agent, but so perfectly that you can't put a credit card between them. Over 1 kilometer above sea level, in the mountains, this was built by who? People with technology. Let's take a look at what we've got going on in the chat here before we move to the next one. Terrifying quote. Yeah, I know. There was a lot of heaviness in that quote. Hey Josh, taking a break from gaming to watch it live. Also, did you notice the Fire in the Sky movie Alien looks very similar to Dr. Reed's? Thanks for taking a break from games, brother. What are you playing? Not a bit of RuneScape, not a bit of World of Warcraft, are you? I might have to join you. I haven't seen Fire in the Sky. Like, I think I said this on the Ashton Forbes podcast yesterday. I'm not a movie guy. I'm not really a TV show guy either. Despite working in visual effects on movies, I like the artistic side of it. I don't actually like movies that much. I like psychological thrillers, but that's about it. Lucas says he barely leaves his house. Brother, you're not alone. A lot of people do. We're so connected to the world from our computers that, like, we kind of don't need to leave. It's weird, right? It's very strange. Hi, new follower here from the States. Welcome. Wasted Operative. Where's the other me go when I step away from the mirror? I've not even touched grass today. Rob Laird, get outside. Go and touch some grass, brother. What are you doing? Feels more than non-human intelligence and UAP going on. I would agree. Definitely more than that. Bit of COD. Okay, I can respect that. Didn't the story from Fire in the Sky have humans in it too? I would not have a clue. Spicy take. Why do we care about traveling the stars when we don't leave our own bubble? Yeah, exactly. All right, we're going to move into the next clip now. Josh, you legend, looking forward to hearing what you have to say. Jack, appreciate that, brother. Guys, if you're enjoying this, if you've been enjoying the content, please give the stream a like, because the more likes we have, the more the stream gets pushed out. And that's what we want. We want to cast the net out and catch all the weirdos in here. Let them know that they have a tribe. All right, let's move over to clip number 2.
Why are you telling this to everybody
Now.
There's no short answer. It's something, I have many, not even competing, but parallel motivations. But why now? Look out at the world. Look inside our country. We are not headed to a good future.
You're concerned.
I am.
Explain the concern.
Ultimately, my biggest fear is what humanity will do to itself out of fear and greed, and what we have done. And we have built a prison around ourselves. It's invisible, but it's not complete. And there is still time to maybe alter our trajectory, have a different future. May not be the best one that we had hoped for, but it's going to be damn sight better than what they have planned for us.
Okay, so that quote, that little part there in itself is kind of terrifying, right? He says, look at the world, look at the country, we are not headed to a good future. And that's something that I've been saying on this channel basically since I uploaded my first video. Like, it's quite clear that the direction of things are not good. And I'm not a doomer, okay? If you've been watching my channel for a while, I mean, I'll dabble in the 2027 talk. I don't mind a little bit of Armageddon chat. But I don't think it's happening, right? I don't think I have a positive mindset. But I'm honest enough to recognize that yes, things are quite shit right now, but that doesn't mean they're going to be shit forever. Okay, I don't think that. But ignoring it in the same breath, ignoring it and pretending it isn't shit isn't going to fix it. It needs to be talked about, because that's how it needs to enter the conversation. Otherwise, we're going to keep just blindly walking down this path where mental health is the biggest issue in the world. The cost of living is ridiculous. The way people treat each other just because they have a difference of opinion is like absurd. If you have a different political alignment or religion, now you're the enemy. Like, people are forgetting that we're all human beings. Like, we're actually all one. It's ridiculous. Like, we are on a downward spiral that is gaining exponential momentum, but like Matthew Brown says, it's not too late to change it. And that's what I believe. The other kind of scary thing that he says there is we have built a prison around ourselves that's invisible. Now, I don't know what he means by that. I'm curious to see what you guys think about what he means by that, because I feel like it could be interpreted a lot of ways. I feel like it's possibly got something to do with the internet. Yeah, Serpenter says tech. I think I agree. And it's weird though, because technology is what we're using to spread this, like to try and fix the problem. It's going to be fixed through tech. So in a way, like, we kind of need it, but it seems like in itself, it's kind of created the problem too. But I'm sure there are many other things that are contributing to this. Heather says it's so much easier to spread love in the world. 100%, Heather. I totally agree. It costs nothing to be kind to people. And I think if more people could just remember that, like, just because someone doesn't agree with you doesn't mean you have to be a dick about it. People have said the prison planet theory, but I disagree. Yeah, that's a really interesting theory, and it's something that Courtney Brown talks about, but not just Courtney Brown. Like, a lot of people have talked about the prison planet theory, and It's a pretty dark one. It's definitely a dark one. But is that what Matthew Brown is referencing here? I don't think so, but I wouldn't totally discount it either. Did you watch Ashton Forbes last night? I did not. So I was on Ashton Forbes yesterday morning, my time, and that's when we had our podcast. And then I was away. I was just away for 24 hours. And I actually just recorded an episode of After Dark, which is a members only kind of podcast that I do. And that's about to go up on the members channel. But I sort of talked about that and a couple of other things. So if you remember, you'll have that to enjoy pretty much not long after this stream is finished. And if you're not a member, maybe you should be. You can go and check it out. Chat with Ashton was A+. They teleported a fucking civilian aircraft. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. It's the free energy that's what's blocking full disclosure. Yeah, I think you could be right. Well, I think that's a big part of it. It is 100%. But I think there's more than that. It's complicated. It will be crazy to see in the end when disclosure comes who's full of shit and who was for real. Yes, 100%. 100%. There will be there'll be a reckoning. I'm sorry, but the US have some explaining to do to the rest of the world covering this for decades. Look, what I'll say on the MH370 thing, just to kind of touch on it quickly. If you don't believe that those videos are real, because seeing a plane being teleported is very hard to digest, and I totally appreciate that. Hopefully, at the very least, you can accept and understand the fact that there are like thousands of high imagery satellites in the sky at any given time. At the very least, you need to be able to accept the fact that you aren't, like, they know what happened to the plane and you aren't being told the truth about it, because there are satellites that would have been able to see it. 100%. Whether you want to believe it's teleported or not, I don't know, but you're not being told the truth. So hopefully people who don't believe the teleport video, which is fine, at least understand that, you know, you're being lied to. The NRO knows at the very least. Yeah, 100%. And Polydoom, welcome to the members club, you absolute weirdo. Can we see some polarity loves and polarity hearts in the chat for Polydoom? Welcome aboard. All right, let's get into the next clip. What do we got here?
You're believe that the technology, the race for the technology, the understanding of the big secret is entirely in the hands of people outside the government and not for the benefit of the public or to protect American national security. It's in some other realm, in some other hands.
I think it's a mix. I think our military, has a long historic involvement in this. So does our intelligence community and our scientific academic community. We have, as a country, allowed ourselves to be penetrated, co-opted, and corrupted by an internationalist force that serves their interests and views nations, peoples as tools and means to an end.
Like a business cabal, international corporations that have no loyalty to any nation, let alone this one.
That's a large part of it. I think we have to go above that too, to start to explain the degree of the level of deception and the level of commitment they've had to maintaining that deception. It's above just monetary gain and power. They're afraid.
Okay, so there's a little bit there that George Knapp, Jeremy Corbell didn't push on and didn't touch on, but I just want to replay the very end of that. Like, listen to this.
And the level of commitment they've had to maintaining that deception, it's above just monetary gain and power. They're afraid.
They're afraid. What does that mean? So the people who are he's saying the people who are covering this up and hiding this, it's above monetary gain and power. It's above that. It's beyond trying to have power or control or money. They're afraid. Well, what are they afraid of? Like, they're not afraid of us. Because I feel like when that was said, my initial reaction, and I can only assume maybe the way, or maybe they cut out the response, or I don't know why they didn't push him on that, because to me, it's like, did they think he meant he's afraid of, or they're afraid of us, or like afraid of us finding out the truth? I don't think that's what they mean. I think it means they're covering it up because they're afraid of something else. That's how I'm interpreting that. because the other answers don't really fully compute or make sense. Build on Sound says, keep up the work, Josh. I have this weird feeling that Matthew is being used by the people of the program to find that document for a reason. Interesting. Thank you for the $5, my bro. Appreciate that. Meant to say, loving the names, horrific crimes against humanity, bitten off more than they can chew. Maybe it was an umbrella words that catches all of those ideas. Yeah, you could be right, Polly. You could be right. He's afraid. Yeah, he's afraid of something else. That's how it's 3-body problem kind of fear. Now that would be scary. And to be honest, that is, as wild as that is, Jared, that's kind of the realm of thinking that it comes across to me as, that like they're like whatever it is that they know, they're scared of it. They're so scared of it. And that's why they don't want to tell us. It's because he said it's above monetary gain. It's above power. They're scared. I don't think it's anything to do, like, they're not scared of us. There's nothing to do with us. They're scared of something else. That's how I'm interpreting that. Dark Forest assumes intergalactic physical travel, which might not exist. The Dark Forest theory scares me. Yeah. It is a scary one. Angels and Demons. You missed the live alert, Mr. T. Well, have you got your notifications turned on? Guys, if you're subscribed and you haven't also hit the bell, what are you doing? What are you doing? I think we're in Aleto's Golden Path universe, not a 3-body problem universe. Kendra Dawn with the 3-monther. Good morning, Josh. Guess that would be a good evening for you. Thank you for the awesome content. My pleasure, Kendra. Thank you for the support for 3 months. It is definitely good evening for me, but it's always good morning. It's always good morning somewhere in the world. So let's move on to the next clip, I think. Basically, I think what he's saying there, in that they're scared, comports with the terrible truth theory. Okay, the truth that the theory that the truth is just so dark, and that does track for me. I've said to people that are pretty close to me that they know I'm into like conspiracy shit, and they're not really, but I can still talk to them about it, and that they know they're cool with it. I've said to him, I was just like, dude, whatever the truth is, it would probably really disturb you. And I was like, I don't know what it is, but I just feel like it's really disturbing. And, people like us weirdos would probably find it out and be like, oh, damn. But I feel like, normal people who like, are into like normal stuff would be like proper disturbed and upset. That's the kind of level of what I think the truth is.
You believe that this...
Hey, we already watched that one. All right, next clip.
I want our audience to understand what it means for you to talk to us right now. What could happen to you?
My hope is that the stakes are not paid out, but they are life imprisonment and the possibility of execution.
Okay, this is something I wanted to talk about because I have a real problem with understanding this, and, I'm not American, and I don't really think that matters, but maybe an American or someone in law enforcement or someone in government, or maybe if Jeremy Corbell or someone like that sees this clip by any chance, you can answer this question for me. How is someone afraid of being put in prison for life by revealing something to the people who would put him in prison for life? That's like me saying, hey, are you involved in like some secret programs that the government doesn't know about? And then he goes, yeah, I am. And they go, okay, you need to tell us what's going on. And then he tells them, and then they go to jail. Like, how does that happen? That doesn't make sense. I understand the whole, he said execution, because I think it's become pretty clear that, through people like what we've heard from Jake Barber and how like Lockheed Martin have these teams where they'll go and have firefights with other crash retrieval teams that are all American. They're like shootouts over these Panasonic Tough Books. I think it's quite clear that these rogue agencies will kill people. I get that. But the whole like, I'll go to prison. It's like, bro, who's going to put you in prison? The people that are asking you to tell them the answer? It doesn't make sense. Killing the messenger seems like the typical social default. Christina, you say that's your take as well. Christian Serrano says, I work for the city of New York. Any sensitive info I distribute would land me in prison. Doesn't matter if it's national security or not. But Christian, what my question is that if the government are holding congressional hearings and are trying to understand, look, I know you signed an NDA for something that's illegal, for something that we don't know about. It's actually illegal for that program to exist, and you need to tell us because we're the government. Like, we're not then in the same breath going to put you in jail once you tell us. Do you understand? Like, this doesn't make sense. Big Joe says, why does the world always want to blame everything on us Americans? Big Joe, I don't think that's the case, bro. Relax. Take a deep breath, brother. You're not a victim. Yes, Josh, because you don't know who works for who, even in the government. Interesting. Yeah, that's true. I mean, they've told us that, right? That these, that, you know, people that work in the program are not just at a high level. They're kind of like inserted at all levels to try and keep this thing away, which is interesting. Let's keep moving on this one.
And you've tried all the right ways. I've helped you on some of it. We've tried. You have tried all the right ways to do this, but you have something much bigger that is pushing on you, that you have to take this next step forward. And so now, I just want people to understand where you're coming from. When we say we protect whistleblowers, when people come to us, not everybody goes on camera, but also just you work currently in Department of State, but maybe he should tell us his history.
Yeah, let's do chronological. So you got a degree in what?
So I got a degree in international affairs, came out to DC, started working in a small think tank. From there, I applied to and was accepted to a intelligence agency. Ended up taking a job at the Pentagon, basically waiting for the right opportunity for that world to pop up. Which when it did, I, was having too much fun, so I said no.
You're in the Pentagon. Weapons of mass destruction is a general umbrella under which you're working. Did you got a security clearance at that point?
Yeah, I had been cleared by DIA for a top secret SCI clearance.
You get to see, I guess, firsthand all this different information that comes in from all over these places, different platforms, right? Mm-hmm. You're exposed to that, and you get an idea of just how big that apparatus is.
Yes, absolutely. UFOs and aliens aside, it's a different world without anything exotic in it when you are exposed to that information and learning over time, not just from the intelligence, but the experiences of the people around you, because not everything that's true and has happened in the world is written down on paper.
That's an interesting one. Not everything that's true in the world is written down on paper. The fact that there's quite literally probably a whole other world, a parallel reality that is going on that we just don't know about. I mean, I think, like he said, aliens and UFOs aside, so I think that's just one facet of things, right? There is, I think we all can agree that there is a whole world of reverse engineering, learning and researching non-human intelligence, UFOs. There's a whole world like that going on that we aren't told about, but there's probably a whole bunch of other things going on that we don't know about too. And I don't necessarily mean paranormal, but like, the things that go on between countries, in wars, war crimes, all that kind of shit. It's like you said, it's like probably a whole other world. Tracy Scott, sending so much love to all you weirdos here. We're the best people ever. Appreciate you, Tracy. Polly Doom says they rewrite history books every 15 years, so that's not a stretch. Yes, exactly. You hope he's not talking an actual parallel reality. I don't think he is, but I don't think that's off the table either. So my question on the alt parallel world, is it habited as well, or do we escape from that reality into this one? What I think that he means by a parallel reality is that, again, going back to the idea of a breakaway civilization, like there is literally a whole other world, as in like a whole other ecosystem that is on this planet that like we are not connected to. I think that's a very realistic possibility. And I know that sounds crazy. And I'm not saying like I think there's a whole are the a set of 8 billion people with like countries and governments that we don't know about? Like, no, that's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is there is like a smaller civilization, a breakaway civilization that exists here that we are not connected to, and they are likely in control of what goes on via extremely superior technology. And, you know, this is an idea that I've sort of thought about a little bit, but I haven't fully fleshed out yet. But look at, obviously, the way the pyramids are built. It's quite clear that ancient civilizations had advanced technology that we don't have. So did they really just die off? Or did, you know, these weird sort of secret societies just kind of break away or kind of go into the shadows a little bit? But actually that technology and those concepts and that power didn't actually go anywhere. It still exists. It's just not exerted in our faces because, well, if it was exerted in our faces, it probably wouldn't go down well. You know, if we were ruled with an iron fist and we knew about it, like to our faces, people would revolt. But it's almost like we are ruled like that in a very like subversive way that kind of makes us believe that we're not. It's like, you know, look at all the, you know, it's like we're gifted the illusion of choice, and that illusion of choice makes us think that we have like all this freedom and we can, you know, we get to choose what we want to do in life. But in reality, that choice, those choices are confined to a small box. But reality, life, the world is not a small box. It's actually like infinite. But we are in this small box being told like, look at all these choices you can make. Look how free you are. Woohoo. But when you actually like wake the fuck up, you're like, hang on, I live in a tiny box and you're telling me what to do. Is anyone on board with me there? Or am I just completely off the rails with a tinfoil hat? Determinism, Bleak 13, you were thinking that too. Polydoom's agreeing with me. Okay, good. I'm not a lunatic by myself. The 80s were fantastic. I just missed out on them. 100% onto it there, Josh. Yes, bro, 100%. I agree. Totally on board. Feel the same. We're in the dark. Okay, we're all absolute freaks together. I love it. All right, let's get on to the next one.
I want our audience to understand.
Like I said, there is there's many worlds, there's many shells to our reality that the public, including our professional media class, our professional academic class, our political class, has absolutely no idea exists. And if they do have an idea, they have a very distorted one, sometimes intentionally so.
I mean, you're not like some secret agent. You're not like some CIA secret agent. So people understand when you're working at the Pentagon is where we're at in the thing. I mean, we have a lot of great people that are bright-minded, working on these problems for the United States, keeping the United States safe, looking at geopolitical aspects of nuclear weaponry, that kind of thing. But just to be clear, I mean, you're not like some secret agent with more access than anybody else or anything like that.
No, I never wanted to be a field officer. I danced with the idea in my dreams maybe and read the books, but I knew that wasn't for me, especially the task and the cost of befriending and manipulating and ultimately using people. I don't think I would have been very good at that.
Like human.
I respect that. Matthew Brown comes across as a good guy to me. He definitely comes across as like quite nervous in this interview. Like he's like does like kind of like lots of shuffling with his hands and his eyes like dart around, and sort of like a lot of nervous laughter. That, I mean, you could interpret that as like he's lying, he's making shit up, or he actually is just totally scared for his life and that's why he's nervous. I don't know. I don't think that's really worth speculating on too much. But what he said there, like I totally respect that. Like these CIA agents that are undercover and they go to, they basically infiltrate people's lives, lie to them, manipulate them, all under the guise of, you know, national security. They're doing a service to their country. But, you know, to do that is, you know, you still have to like connect with people emotionally, form these bonds, and then like just rip them up and stomp on them. Like that takes a certain kind of certain kind of person.
It's human intelligence.
Correct.
And, yeah. False friendship.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Does that stuff come across your desk? Human intelligence, signals intelligence regarding weapons of mass
All
destruction?
sources. All sources intelligent. All sources of intelligence. And then if there are questions, you can go ask them and usually get the answers.
And the kinds of things that you see that come across your desk, does it give you pause? How am I going to sleep tonight knowing that this XYZ is going on somewhere? At times when they think, oh, crap, how did this happen?
Everyone has like their different standard of what's going to, shake them like that. And I've definitely had a few of those. I won't share them, but.
Yeah, but I mean, just with security, for national security kind of stuff.
Right. Stuff unrelated to exotic things that are very.
Just world out there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you're there for a while. You do that for how many years?
See, I was in there a little over 4 years, but I was in the Pentagon a little over 5 because I moved out of there briefly into the Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence and a smaller office in there.
We've heard of that.
Oh my God. Okay. So this guy has this just proves how fucked stuff is, right? This guy was in there for 5 years. It's not like this is some 50, 60 year veteran who's like had a change of heart. This guy was in there for like 5 minutes and was like, this is fucked. You know what I mean? Like he was saying this was his dream job. He went to work every day, like proud. And after 5 years, he's like, fuck, get me a whistle. I'm out of here. This place is fucked. I find that interesting. Like, I think that's a pretty stark explanation as to just how bad things are in there. Yes, show the love. Hit the like button. We've only got 35 likes. Come on, guys. Come on, weirdos. Come on, give it a like. Help us out. It makes a massive difference to the channel, and I really appreciate it. UFO Aliens channel, welcome to the chat, my friend. He's giving Neil Armstrong vibes. He's giving gun to the head vibes. He's giving you call your wife and tell her you hate her vibes. Poor guy, how long has he held all of this in? The mental anguish I feel for him. Yeah, he definitely looks like he's seen some shit. And I mean, he's going to tell us a whole bunch of stuff soon. We're going to get to that. Damn, I'm already getting phone calls this morning interrupting my little YouTube session. What did I miss? Look, you haven't missed too much other than Matthew Brown saying that he was only in the Pentagon for 5 years until he became a whistleblower. And I just thought that was interesting because, it's not like this guy's a long veteran that's had a change of heart. This was his dream job and he did it for 5 years and now he's a whistleblower. It's not like he just quit. He didn't just leave. He's a whistleblower. Like, that's a very big deal. Only within 5 years. I wonder if this guy will say anything about MH370. It's funny you say that because it may even be in the next clip that he actually says something that I was like, no, Jeremy Corbell actually says it. We'll get to it. We'll keep moving.
I'm curious about just what it's like to work at the Pentagon. I mean, to think you're driving to work. There it is, the heart and soul of the national security of our country. You're doing important work, weapons of mass destruction in the biggest
You'll find out, Mr. T. Just wait. The clips get wilder as we go.
office building in the world. I would think there'd be a lot of satisfaction in that. But I wonder what day-to-day is like. Are you under surveillance? Do you have to do polygraphs? Can you tell your wife what you're doing? Do you socialize with colleagues? Or do you have to worry about what you say to whom and where?
Yeah, so I mean, starting with the first part, I think for me at least, it was like I finally made it, right? I'm working at the Pentagon. It's cheesy, but I felt pride pretty much every single day that I rolled in there.
That's not cheesy. That's awesome.
And I was very fortunate to join an office that cared a lot about their people, not just their performance at work, but their goals, their desires, and how they were getting on with life in general. Fewer places are like that, but I look back on that time with a lot of happiness.
How do things begin to sour? Is it because of this topic that we're going to discuss?
Yes.
Let's take it from there. When does that start? What's your first exposure?
I mean, were you like a UFO guy? Like before all that? I mean, like there's something that happened and there's always an instigator, right? But it's like
It's funny how that's a term. Hey, like, are you a UFO guy? I even use that term. Like, when I talk to other people, I'm like, oh, look, don't worry, dude. You're not a UFO guy. Like, you probably wouldn't get it if I'm, if I've got some wild theory that I want to say. Yeah, Jeremy, are you a weirdo? That's literally what he's saying with just different terminology. Yeah, look, were you a bit of a weird dude beforehand? It's basically the same question.
Like, were you like a UFO guy all your years back, or?
To some degree, I've always been interested in aliens and UFOs, secret histories, the things that are hidden from us. It's been a lifelong kind of passion. It's not always aliens, While I was always interested in these things, they were only a realm of possible. And when I looked at UFOs in a serious way, as I was more in my college years, I got just not exposure, but started learning about the sort of ecosystem of secrecy in the military-industrial complex, what SAPs are, what CAPs are, and you start to realize, oh yeah, there's a good chance a lot of what these UFO things are some really cool stuff that we have, whether it's in the air, under the...
This bit. Sorry, let me just take it back a couple seconds.
UFO things are some really cool stuff that we have, whether it's in the air, under the water, or right in front of you.
What do you mean by that? This UFO stuff could just be secret stuff that we have, whether it's up in the air, in the ocean, or right in front of you. Like, what could that actually mean? Because when he's saying this UFO stuff that we have, it's in the ocean or in the air, he's obviously referring to UFOs or USOs. So, okay, understandable. When you say right in front of you, is he referring to when people have encounters and come across beings that what they're actually seeing is government technology? Because that's, again, that's the kind of shit that Stephen Greer says. And, I know I reference Greer a lot, and I'm not even necessarily, I wouldn't call myself a full Greer believer either. But he just does seem to have a lot of parallels with things that come out, i.e. psionics and CE5 was a big one. But he also talks about programmed life forms. Lieutenant Colonel John Blitch says that the United States were complicit in abductions. And Stephen Greer says that the United States does the abductions. So, I don't know. Are they referring to actual beings? Jack Howe says Greer, like him or not, is extremely relevant. I totally agree, Jack. I think Greer gets dismissed too much because he's annoying. People don't listen to Greer because he's annoying as fuck to listen to. And I agree with that. Because you can't... Greer's is the guy who, if you're at a party and you tell a story, he'll be like, oh yeah, you went skydiving from 5,000 feet. Yeah, I skydived 20,000 feet yesterday, actually. Yeah, it's way better, actually. That's Greer. He'll just top whatever story you tell. He's got a way better one, dude. Trust me. Yeah, let him finish. Just let him finish. But yeah, he's annoying as fuck. I think we can all agree on that. But the problem is people let him being annoying get in the way of what he's saying. And I actually do think he does say a lot of things that are worth listening to, but people can't get past how annoying he is. And I think, that's his problem. He should probably try to be a little more, learn how to deliver your message without coming across like a tool. But other people could probably, just try and relax a little bit and listen to what he has to say. I don't know. Jared says that he'll leg press you into orbit. Yeah, he leg presses 700 pounds, if you guys don't know, by the way. He's annoying, but he's knowledgeable. Exactly, Kendra. Exactly. Like a lot of people have their quirks. Greer, did you do something better than me? Sit on it and rotate 100%. In front of you, I think he's talking about the tech that we have. Yeah, potentially, Mark, you could be right. It's hilarious when Greer calls other people narcissistic. Yeah, I know, right? Like, get a mirror, brother. But look, I think I think it's healthy to rip on people. Maybe that's an Australian thing, but like, it's healthy to rip on people because it keeps people humble, and it doesn't mean that you don't like someone. Like, I'll say Greer is an annoying, narcissistic person, but I still like him. Doesn't mean I don't like him. Sydney Sider says he has said recently that he's getting old and has no patience for nonsense anymore. I think I remember that. That might have been in the Jesse Michaels interview, and that's fair. Like, I can, let's assume that what Greer says is true. Everything Greer says is true. Let's just assume that. Imagine being him, and for the last 30 years, everyone's called you just like a complete lunatic freak. And now, slowly, like, people are starting to be like, oh, wait, a couple of the things you're saying are actually true. Maybe we should start listening. He's not gonna, like, I don't blame him for not being like, ooh, hooray, yay, yes, listen to me. You know what I mean? He's probably like, yeah, about fucking time he started listening. I understand that. I respect that. Greer's begun to redeem himself. Yeah, he 100%. He is the OG weirdo, Jack. He really is. He's been a weird motherfucker since the 90s. He was weird before it was okay to be weird. Beings that operate on a different frequency, out of phase with our perception. Studying us like anthropologists disturbs me a bit, but I think it's a very real concept. Yeah, I agree, Jared. I think that's definitely not outside the realm of possibility. All right, let's keep going with this one. We haven't finished
You're not getting a job at the Pentagon because you want to get access to the UFO scene.
No. When I joined, I thought, I'd pretty much locked down that, there might be life out there, but most of what we're seeing in the skies at that time, I thought was either ours or ally or adversary.
You don't go over the deep end. You're not going to MUFON conferences. No. You're not wearing a beanie and alien stuff on your head.
No. No. In fact, I would be looked at like I had a third eye just by suggesting they were stealth satellites.
That's a funny one. By the way, I realized I missed a super chat earlier from SOS. Thank you for the $1, my bro. Appreciate that. So what do we get there? First of all, earlier on in that clip, he said that, he's like, he was super proud to go to the Pentagon and to go to work every day. Like, this was his dream job. And he was, when he was sort of like, oh, I know it's cheesy. I don't think it's cheesy at all. I think it would comfort me knowing that the people working at the most sensitive installations in my country are proud. Like, I would want you to be proud every day. Like, you know what I mean? That's the kind of person you want. And I also think it's a good example of why whistleblowing and talking about these topics is hard for these people, because they have worked their whole lives to get into these positions, and now they're essentially throwing it in the bin because they're trying to follow their moral compass and do what they believe is right. But they know in doing that, they're essentially just like slam dunking their career and life's work into the trash, and potentially like risking their life as well. Another $2 from SOS. Thank you. Please read Thinking and Destiny by Harold Percival. I'll add that to this giant pile of books here that I'm nowhere close to finishing yet, but thank you. I will remember that one. What else is in that one? I think we kind of covered it. We kind of stopped for a while in that one. So let's go straight onto the next one. Here we go.
Did you have access to live feeds?
Yes.
So live feeds, real time, you could go into like a Reaper drone and see if they're...
Reaper drone? Isn't that what Ashton Forbes says is what filmed the MH370 thing? And he's talking about like remoting into a live feed of a Reaper drone. I don't know. I just thought that was kind of weird.
There's something going on. Not that you're specifically looking for UFOs, but you had access even to live feeds.
Yeah. Not anything special, no special access, but you know where those resources are. You can go look at them, and I did.
I want to go back to this. You said with these nuclear facilities, nuclear weapons, nuclear labs, nuclear power plants, that within a year or two, like, are you saying all of them get visited, or there's some strange phenomena?
I can't say that they all do, but I would suspect that anything that is sufficiently nuclear will draw attention at some point and will be they will be encountering this.
And what are they? What do you see? What kinds of things are you seeing?
So, I mean, nothing too dramatic when it comes to like these facilities. A lot of times it's orbs of, you know.
Okay, so he's talking about nuclear vehicles or facilities, right? And he's saying anything that is sufficiently nuclear gets attention from these things. And he's going, what are these things are? And he goes, in that clip, he goes like mainly borbs. He says orbs with some other letter in front of it. I didn't even think he said orbs at first. Let me just listen to this. Listen to this again. Listen to him say it. Watch him say it.
What kinds of things are you seeing?
So, I mean, nothing too dramatic when it comes to like these facilities. A lot of times it's borbs.
It's borbs? Sorry, but what are borbs? The only reason I think that's funny, I guess, because I spoke to Ashton Forbes yesterday and he calls himself 4 orbs. So this guy's talking about Reaper drones. He's seeing 4 orbs. Like, what is, am I living in some kind of like Inception reality? Like, we're talking about borbs and Reaper drones. I thought maybe he isn't saying orbs, like maybe he's saying something else, but he actually goes on to actually say orbs without saying borbs.
Of, you know, it's hard to always judge the size, but
He went to say something else first, Heidi. Yeah, maybe. What could he have said instead of, it sounds like borbs. It sounds like borbs with a B. What could B be? Be like balls? Maybe he went to say balls. Borbs?
be surprised if it's
I feel like we should only call them borbs from now on.
bigger than a Cessna. Probably something somewhere in between. Whether it's white or silverish, or if you're looking through different sensor apparati, it'll look like whatever hot or cold is.
Sorry, I was kind of yapping then through what he was saying, but he's basically saying that these borbs were roughly the size of a Cessna plane if he was to gauge it. There's some big borbs.
But usually orbs around these facilities, sometimes
Orbs.
things that look a bit more irregular, but the vast majority being orbs.
I mean, the world's been exposed to some of this. There's been a clarification to the general public about what are you seeing when you're seeing infrared or FLIR. It takes some translation. There are people that focus on that, like they can read that. But basically, you're looking at things that don't have flight control surfaces, that don't have traditional propulsion.
If someone super chats $10, I'll show you guys my borbs. No, I'm kidding. Don't be ridiculous.
They seem to tag along, which we've heard forever, with nuclear events, that kind of thing, nuclear structure. But you see a lot of these start getting exposed to them. I mean, just to begin, doesn't that start to kind of feed that curiosity in you? You just all of a sudden, the average person, but you're now seeing stuff that you can't.
Yeah, you have to be a special kind of boring to not be interested after seeing those things.
What a great quote from Matthew Brown. You got to be a special kind of boring to not be interested after seeing this. But I feel like you could just apply that to really anything in this topic. Like if you start to hear about Jake Barber picking up alien eggs or literally any facet of this subject, if you can hear it and then be like, oh, okay, I'm going to go watch Love Island now. You're a special kind of boring.
Shocking, especially knowing the context of what you're looking at.
Right, which you get when you have
special kind of boring.
those systems that can look at that.
100%.
What's the context? What like big picture? Like what's the context?
Yeah, and in this way, you seeing images. Is there discussion? Is there text that comes along with this? Hey, we saw this thing. What the hell is it? It's not us.
Surprisingly little of that. I think the community kind of knows or knew that we don't talk about this. It's there. That changed some years ago, but it's since been, I think, shut down again in terms of community participation in solving the problem.
So people within the intelligence community know you don't talk about this out loud. You don't say the quiet part out loud. You post stuff, you kind of get, then you get an era of discussion when this starts coming forward, 2017 New York Times story, But then you're explaining that there's been a kind of clampdown on that dialogue and discussion. I've heard that from a lot of people on the inside. You witnessed that too?
Yes, absolutely. Both firsthand and from, hearing from friends and connections. It's, the screws were tightened, and certain agencies, you're not allowed to mention certain whistleblowers' names or you'll be fired immediately.
Okay, this is where it starts getting spicy because he starts dropping some names. Tracy Scott with the £2 just for one Borb. Tracy, unfortunately, that was a package deal. It's all Borbs or none. No, I appreciate that. Thank you, and I appreciate all the Borb chat that we're getting here. This is getting pretty Borbing. Just wait, Lucas. Just wait. It's about to heat up for sure. Sweaty Big Toe with the 5. Appreciate you, my friend. Thank you. Thank you. Do they ever bring up DARPA? I don't think specifically in this interview, but this is a part 1 of part 3, and there's a little teaser of what we're getting in the next one. I'm going to show it at the end, and it seems like it just keeps cooking up. It's getting wild. SOS with the $2. Thank you, my man. Been through all of this, Thinking and Destiny. Thank you. I appreciate that, my friend. Where's the other Borb? So this dude shall be known as Big Borbs Brown. God, the Borbs in the chat. The chat has just gone full Borb. I respect it though. You gotta respect the meme factor, 100%. Borba T. Look, I think anything is just going to be transformed into a Borb meme now, and I'm here for it. Guys, if you haven't joined our Discord, in the description, you can join our Discord from the link. Get in there. We have a memes channel, and all Borb memes are welcome and encouraged. All right, let's keep moving. Because this, like I said, this is where it heats up. We get some names dropped now.
Yeah, so you're seeing these videos and some limited discussion. You can't really openly talk about it, but you're curious. You're kind of hooked on the topic. Yeah,
and to be clear, 2018, when this first exposure happened, and for about a few years after, it did at least feel more open. Looking back on it, this was probably a counterintelligence prerogative at the time. But it was allowed to exist. The discussion was allowed to exist, and it felt more like, people were excited to finally actually be able to talk about this and finally be able to try to compare notes, figure it out.
Well, it's when the UAP task force was created. They didn't call it that, but it was up and running, and they were trying to make entreaties out to the intelligence community and DOD. Hey, they wanted input from and partners.
Yeah, so I saw that emerge, and I saw it die.
So what do you mean if you met?
So this guy was in the Pentagon for 5 years. And when 2017, 2018-ish, when the UAP task force was set up, he says within his 5 years, he saw this go up and go down within 5 years. So that he's watched the UAP task force get established after the videos were released by the Pentagon. There was like this excitement. People could talk about it. And within his time, before he left and before he became a whistleblower, it was squashed and died. This guy's saying he saw it rise and fall within that time. So there are clearly people within the establishment that are actively suppressing it. Let's keep going because this is where the names get dropped.
Mention certain whistleblowers.
Heather Harding, thank you for the $4. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Who?
David Grush.
You can't mention David Grush in certain professional settings or you are fucked.
Yeah, if you're not fired, you are in for a very rough time, is my understanding.
Elizondo?
I didn't hear Elizondo as a no-go word.
Saying David Grush testified in open Congress, so that makes sense. So, what have you seen it happen? Have you seen people mention his name? How do you become aware you can't even talk about him?
So that specific example, heard from a friend at that agency, that was essentially the word of mouth from management. Nothing written in paper, nothing in emails, but from what it sounds like, people got a conversation with their leadership and were told as much as we've just gone over. And his name was absolutely, in the first-hand experience, sort of radioactive in the chat rooms. It would either, all of a sudden, these people that never participate are there really slamming him and slamming the people talking about him.
On the classified internet.
Indeed.
Our space is one we've talked about a bunch, but these where people had open dialogue, it just got a clamp down, and his name was part of that. That's what you meant when you said certain people are radioactive. You can't mention their names.
Right.
So there's this classified internet system that these people work on, which just kind of sounds strange to me. Like, I know, like, when you go to like university or you go to school, there's like a classified, not a classified, sorry. There's like an intranet. It just sounds like silly and funny to me. I mean, I don't know what else they would use. Suki. I don't know what else they would use, but the fact that they're just like discussing UFOs with like real footage on like an intranet just seems funny and silly and comical. I don't know why. That's probably just me. But yeah, David Grush, no-go word. And Heidi Stanley says Lou's face when he finds out that he isn't a no-go word would have been epic. It's interesting to see, and he actually talks about Lou. So Lou's face is on this intranet system, apparently. We're going to get into that in a little bit. But yeah, apparently David Grush mentioning his name would make you lose your job at the Pentagon. Josh, who's there? That is my... you probably won't be able to see her because my dog is black and she blends in. But Suki, come here. Come here. Come here. Yeah, you can't see anything. Hello. You still can't really see her. Yeah. She just blends in with everything. Sometimes she's in my room and I don't even know because my sheets are black. She was sleeping. She didn't enjoy that. Hello, Chloe. Love you, Suki. Lovely. Yes, I know. Everyone loves the puppy. She's the sweetest. Josh, like the same person. Suki is my wife's name. That's awesome. And also hard to see in the dark. What breed? She is an American Staffy with like a little bit of bulldog in her. And a little bit of crazy. Actually, a lot of crazy. But a lot of sweet as well. Sweaty Big Toe, $5 for the dog treats. Aw, Suki. You're going to get some schmackos tomorrow. Thank you, my man. Appreciate that. You got a boxer, Bob Birkins. That's sick. Bob Birkins got a big boxer Borbs. I don't know. Lots of crazy is good for the weirdos. Exactly. She's definitely my daughter. She's definitely my daughter. That's for sure. All right, we got a bit distracted there with the dog. Let's keep moving with these clips. Orbs burger joint. That's never going to get old. Oh, by the way, speaking of David Grush, okay, while we're here, speaking of David Grush, do you guys like that SKIFF was meant to happen today and it didn't? So check this out. This is from today. This is from my friend Deep State Ross.
Okay, well, there's been a spanner in the works. There was meant to be a secure compartmented information facility, a SKIFF briefing today, where there were going to be confidential briefings from witnesses to the members of the House Oversight and Accountability Committee. That particular hearing has now been delayed. But what is going to happen on Thursday now is there's still going to be a briefing of Congress's Oversight and Accountability Committee by the UAP Disclosure Fund, which is an activist lobby group pushing for UAP disclosure. And we're going to have people like Luis Elizondo, Dr. Eric Davis, Admiral Tim Gallaudet, Mike Gold from NASA, and they're going to be talking to the issue of what issues are posed by these UAPs presenting themselves as they are increasingly in US airspace. And that's going to be the preliminary for what's expected to be a public hearing presided over by Anna Paulina Luna, Representative Anna Paulina Luna, on the 12th of May. So there are 3 events happening in the Congress. The SKIFF briefing, the secret briefing that was meant to be happening today, has been delayed until about the 12th, the week beginning the 12th of May. But we're assured it's still going.
So this has been delayed, right? But what's weird, thanks Ross Borbart, What's weird? First person to get a dog and name it Borb wins a prize. The weird thing is this skiff got delayed, right? And Ross didn't mention it there. There's a soundbite on X of Anna Paulina Luna saying David Grush couldn't make it. Like last minute, David Grush couldn't make it. Like I don't know if he's got a cold. I don't know if the traffic was bad on the way to the skiff. I don't know, but for some reason Grush couldn't make it, and apparently that's why this briefing didn't go ahead. But at the same time, basically at the same day, we hear this from Jeremy Corbell about David Grush, but also Lou Elizondo put out a statement saying that it got postponed because of, some bureaucracy, just some bullshit, essentially, just some bullshit. Yes, Robert Love, thank you. Lou said literally last minute, and it was unrelated to UAP. Yes. So there's this happened today, and we've already got 3 different accounts, 3 different reasons why it didn't happen. We've got Ross just rossing on News Nation. We've got Anna Paulina Luna saying Grush got stuck in traffic, and we've got Lou Elizondo just blaming the Borbs. I don't know, some random reason, right? So who knows what's true? And why can't anything just be consistent? Why is there just never any consistency in this space? Did you know that AARO released a statement about the jellyfish at the same time this interview got launched? They claim the jellyfish are balloons. Really? What, this came out today? That they think the jellyfish are balloons? That's just so ridiculous. I mean, they could be. And if they are balloons, then... Okay, imagine if they are. What that's essentially saying, if we read between the lines, what that is saying, AARO is saying the jellyfish are balloons. That is, without saying it, that Skywatcher are frauds. That's essentially what they're saying without saying it. So I think that explains what the dynamic is there. And I think we should note that, right? AARO don't like what Skywatcher are doing. If they're going to turn around and say, oh, they're just balloons, they're basically saying their work is bullshit and they're lying or they're confused. They're not balloons. Clearly, they're swamp gas. I know. I can't believe people don't realize that is just exactly what a Chinese lantern looks like when Neptune is in retrograde and it's 43 degrees to the east. Obviously. I just don't get that. I just don't understand that people don't realize that. It's clearly, yes, exactly. It's clearly a swamp borb. AARO trying to discredit Skywatcher because they feel threatened. Yeah, likely. We're actually going to touch on them in a minute. Let's keep moving because we are,
Okay, well, there's been a spanner in the...
Come on, Ross. That's enough, mate.
When you say exposure, we're going to get into this, but you mean, technically it's called spillage. It's when you see something that is of a compartmentalized or nature that you are not specifically cleared to see, and you were exposed to something, and it was like, holy shit, what is this? And the first thoughts of that,
AARO wasn't talking about Skywatcher. They were talking about the video that was in the Middle East. I mean, Edward, if that is the case, which I don't know because I haven't seen it, I'm just going off what the chat is saying. If that is the case, that to me is bad for AARO, because I could understand what Skywatcher are seeing as a jellyfish. As a balloon. I don't think it is, but I could get that. The Middle East video, that's not a balloon. That thing is rigid as hell. That thing literally looks like the drones from Star Wars, like those Imperial drones. It's rigid. It does not move. It moves through space, but the object itself does not move at all. So for them to say that that is a balloon, then I don't know. They just look like idiots, in my opinion. So guys, this is a longer clip. This is a 7-minute clip, but this is the clip where Matthew Brown details what Immaculate Constellation is, what it was. He found some of the documents to it on this intranet that's in the Pentagon, and basically details what he saw and what prompted the report that he wrote on Immaculate Constellation. Christina says, I'm back. Missed a lot. Had to take my daughter to school. You did miss a little bit, Christina, but you arrived right at the time where we are about to talk about, well, Matthew Brown is about to explain what Immaculate Constellation is. This is the guy who wrote the document.
Interested in. So if we're at that point, yeah. Okay. So let's talk about that. Look, the whole world knows about IMCON, Immaculate Constellation. We're saying that word out loud. At one time, that was very dangerous to say out loud, to write, to text. We should talk about that. But before, this is your gateway. This is the entrance point. What happened? How did it happen? What did you see? What did you think?
Yeah, so the first exposure, or the exposure to Immaculate Constellation, happened on a shared server that was shared by all the offices in OSD. What I was doing at the time was opening files that were clearly misfiled and either sorting them to our offices, part of that server, or putting them in their own box to be sorted by other responsible your jobs. I mean, this is more like volunteer duty, but yes.
So because you're a workaholic and you're curious and you read a lot, you come across a file that really is what leads us to being here today. It's the Shriver file.
Yeah, so it was labeled 2018 Shriver War Game. It might have been brief or something else, but that's it. There's nothing about that screams, it's a very interesting thing. In fact, usually a lot of war game briefs are pretty boring. So there's nothing that stood out about it.
Accidental exposure for you.
100%.
You go into it and what do you see?
There's just a generic title slide. There's a banner without classification markings that just says Immaculate Constellation. And it has a placeholder slide that shows like the Shriver Shriver Air Base logo.
I wanted to pause that there because I actually wanted to suss out these badges. I feel like the one on the badge there on the very left, we've actually looked at on this channel, I think. Guys, by the way, the badges that I've been looking at a lot. We looked at them in the Jonathan Reed video. There's that one with the red eyes. There's a whole other thing to that I found that I'm going to do a video on soon that I'm really excited to talk about. Those things are just so creepy and interesting. So I think I'm excited to make a video about that now. Left badge is Air Force Space Command, now called Space Force. Yes, yeah. And no, I'm thinking of the Space Force Intelligence Agency badge is what I'm thinking of, I think. I haven't seen this Jeremy Corbell to speak differently to any people. Like everyone is automatically his best friend. I could never trust a person like that. That's an interesting point. He does talk to people like that. But, he could just be a people pleaser, which, I guess is a reason maybe to not trust someone. Fair point. Skywatcher is trying to get people to go outside and try to connect with these craft mentally. I believe that is dangerous. It's definitely not something people should be doing willy-nilly. Just, there's definitely something to it. Blue Origin badge upside down is creepy. Yeah, I don't know about that. I have seen that. Kind of feels like reaching to me. I'm not sure.
And some logos of the units involved. But at that time, I believe it would have still been like Air Force Space Command adjacent. So still nothing particularly stunning. I think the name at the top, probably just the name of the exercise. So the next slide, though, is where it gets interesting because the face of Luis Elizondo is on that next slide. And I was not who I was expecting to see. And it was accompanied by text to summarize. Please have some grace with me. It's been 7 years, but it was saying that Immaculate Constellation is an unacknowledged special access program established after the exposure of ATIP in 2017 by former USDI officer Luis Elizondo.
So he's saying that on this intranet where he found this Immaculate Constellation document is a picture of Luis Elizondo's face, basically saying that like Immaculate Constellation came together because of Luis Elizondo leaking out information through like from ATIP with To the Stars. Now, I don't want to get too tinfoil hatty, but this feels very like a pro-Lou propaganda tidbit here. It might not be. It could just be true, and that's just that's just what it is. But the fact that I don't know, Lou's always just come off as a little bit sus to me. I don't inherently think he's like a disinfo agent or anything like that, but it's just something about the way he speaks that I don't know. I just can't connect with it. Don't know what it is. I knew it, no information, but I had a hunch Lou was involved. Remember how nervous he got in the hearings? Oh yeah, he was very nervous in those hearings. Let's see what Elizondo said about this. He's sketchy. His dad was on the JFK team in Dallas. Imagine this guy was a fraud. I knew Lou was an untrustworthy dwarf man. Oh, have you guys seen the photo of him standing next to Tom DeLonge and Chris Mellon? Oh yes, okay. I've had this photo on my desktop for like years, and I've just never taken it off my desktop, and I just love that it's here right now. Oh, wait, hopefully this will pull in. Oh, it won't. Hang on. Let me figure this out. It's not a JPEG file, but I can... This photo is so funny. You would think that... Wait, look, this might not be real. But I do know that Tom DeLonge is super tall. Like, you guys know I have a man crush on Tom DeLonge. I've always been a Blink fan. He is super tall, and Lou is obviously super short. So this could actually be legit, and it's so funny. Where is it? Hold on. Okay, you ready? Hang on, let me see that. I can't see the chat. Hang on. You ready? Where did it go? What? Dude, that can't be real, dude. That can't be real, but I think it is. No, I seriously think it is. I think this is real. I think Chris Mellon and Tom DeLonge are super tall. Well, no, I know Tom DeLonge. I can't not laugh and look at this photo. I know Tom DeLonge is very tall, and I think Chris Mellon might be too. And Luis Elizondo is really short. So, like, you know, it's not like an average person next to Tom DeLonge who's tall. It's someone who's abnormally short next to someone who's abnormally tall. And also Lou is kind of jacked as well. Does anyone have who's got the data for me? Who? I know someone has Googled the height of these people. Okay, Luis Elizondo is 5'6". Can we get a height check on Tom DeLonge and Chris Mellon, please? Bob Birkin says it's fake. Tom is 6'4". Tom is 6'4". And he is 5'6". That's like nearly a... Oh, yeah. Okay, maybe it is fake. I don't want it to be fake. I want this to be real. Stop destroying my reality. Stop destroying my fantasy reality where Tom DeLonge... Where Luis Elizondo is actually Gimli. This is like the Intergalactic Fellowship of the Ring. You just saw the real picture. It's fake. Oh, goddamn. I've kept this on my, you know, I'm still going to keep this on my desktop. I'm just going to gaslight myself into this being real. I enjoy it too much.
And, you know, that's the gist of that first slide. And so I'm looking at that and
my axe. And my Borb.
You know, nothing particularly convincing that that's alien related or what the sap is or what it's doing. So I don't know what to make of this. So I read the whole thing. And yeah, it got very interesting very quick.
So it's designated.
Sorry, I'll stop interrupting this, but can we start Can we like, if I post this on X, can we all repost it and pretend that it's real? How far could we take that conspiracy?
A SAP, you know, this is a SAP. It's sitting on a server. Maybe it shouldn't be on.
Correct.
Right. So I think that's important. And also, it seems like it's just a response to the public spillage or exposure that we saw come forward with people like, and specifically Luis Elizondo. This was like an internal classified response to the fact, oh shit, some of this is out now.
Yeah, that's exactly the tone of those words, of that slide. That's the implied order of events that led to it being established.
So it was like 2018, maybe.
Yeah, the file was at least last accessed in 2018. I can't remember if it did say, you know, the file creation date or if I looked it up, but I know it was last accessed.
And you see who's accessed it prior to you?
I can.
And what did you see?
So everyone says that I'm wrong and it's impossible, but the name I recall and recalled at the time,
Here we go.
Oh, that's odd, was
Name redacted.
And did
Okay, so they've just mentioned someone saying he could see the most recent person to access the Immaculate Constellation document. And they just said who it was, and they said name redacted. It's a woman, that's right. And I think I know who it is, and we're going to go into it. But let's continue.
you know who that was?
vaguely. At that time, people are considered superstars in leadership circles, so you just hear names like that. And that's what her name was.
Why would that be impossible? Why are people now in retrospect, why are people telling you that would be impossible?
Oh, she wasn't at the Pentagon then.
Mm-hmm.
Where was she? She was at the Pentagon, to my knowledge, but they're saying she wasn't there.
Right.
Interesting. And
So, all right. So Shriver War Games, you keep reading. There's
Yep, you guys are onto it in the chat. Susan Goff.
a big slide with Luis Elizondo's face on it. What comes next? I mean, you get a sense that I shouldn't be able to read this here.
No, not yet, actually. To be clear, at that point in time, I had no formal training in what SAPs were. There was no SAP marking on this, just a name, Immaculate Constellation. The opening slide, just we would call it improperly labeled, improperly classified.
What was it? What did it show?
So the next slide, the third slide about, just jumps straight into the mission of the SAP. And
Okay, this is where it gets really spicy. And yes, you guys are right. I think it's Susan Goff, and I'm going to show you something in a minute that goes through that. But before we get into this really spicy part, if you guys are enjoying the stream, you're enjoying the Borb chat, the Gimli, Luis Elizondo photos, please hit a like for me. Let's try and pump up the like count on this stream and get it out there.
showing what apparently the results of that mission are. And it's a collection incident in the Pacific Ocean. The subject of collection is several Russian naval intelligence vessels in the middle of the ocean at night. And above those vessels is a large black triangle floating in the air. This is a still image, but it is color.
Okay, so that's the first kind of event, but what was the mission? What was the mission? That's what people want to know, is what was the mission of Immaculate Constellation as described in the product?
So in the product itself, you had to piece together the mission by reading the whole thing and kind of putting together the parts. It never spelled out fully, like as it should, the mission of the SAP. And I assume that's because this is a type of brief where there will be inserts to the deck, which would be inserted by the SAP control officer during the briefing that would provide another level of detail. But based on the information included in there and its description, the mission becomes apparent, and that is a bare minimum. It's the intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance mission of a global nature for UAPs and RVs, ARVs. The hesitation there is some time has passed. One of those acronyms is in there, either RV or ARV, and that is how the triangle in this case was labeled.
It's been 7 years, so as you're reading through this and that you're remembering RV or ARV just for our audience. So RV is reverse
Reproduction
vehicle.
Yeah.
And the ARV would mean anomalous reproduction.
We see people in the literature say alien reproduction vehicle. It could just be anomalous.
Advanced.
This bit's a cop out. Check this out. He's saying he's looking at things in the document that are called like RVs or ARVs. And obviously Knapp and Corbell here, that they kind of have to play like the journalist role, they ask questions that they know the answers to, but to try and like stimulate the conversation. And they're like, so what could ARV be? And like the answers here are a bit of a cop out. Let me just rewind just a tiny bit.
Production vehicle. It could just be anomalous,
advanced,
or advanced. It could be anything that can go after A.
So you don't know what that is. But I don't.
No, it could be anything that goes after A. Look, probably not though, because what does reproduction vehicle mean? It means you're reproducing something else. Like what? So what? It doesn't. So no other A word really makes sense. Advanced reproduction vehicle? No, that would just be an advanced production vehicle. If you're reproducing something from something else, advanced and anomalous. I mean, anomalous might as well just be aliens. You know what I mean? Like, that doesn't make sense to me. This whole like pretending you don't know what the A is. I don't know if maybe they have to, he still has to toe a line. I don't know. But anyway, let's go back to what we were saying before. That was a long clip. Susan Goff is the person, as soon as they said it's a female, I thought it's probably Susan Goff. And I've got the rewind clip. I've played this rewind clip before.
And when you say exposure,
we're going to watch it again. Check this out.
Or AARO is just still the same disinformation agency as it was before.
This is the first ever episode of Weird Week. This is funny to watch, to be honest.
And I'm going to assume the latter because the woman next to him, who spent the entire hearing giving him a dagger sharp enough to kill Brandon Stark, is Susan Goff. Now look, some people online have said she looks like the demonic gatekeeper of the underworld. Some people said she looked like an angry melted candle. Some were even comparing her to this fish, but...
I did not need to do that. That was a stray bullet that Susan copped. I did not need to do that.
I don't care about any of that. I don't want anything to do with that stuff. What I can tell you about Susan Goff is she is the keeper of secrets. This email appeared on X, sent in 2019 from a retired Navy captain, naming her as the person who is in charge of all public relations regarding UAP.
Shots were fired. It was funny. It was funny. But check this out. Listen to this email. Check this out.
It says that any inquiry that comes into the military at any level, branch, department, anywhere, you must make no comment and forward the inquiry directly to Susan Goff. Even freedom of information requests that relate to UAP must go through her. And this is to avoid new terms and language being introduced that complicate the overall messaging efforts.
There you go. It's always humbling watching the old clips, isn't it? We've come a long way. So yes, I do think it's Susan Goff because she is essentially like the known gatekeeper at the DoD. Literally any single inquiry related to UAP, full stop, regardless of what department or area or agency it comes to at the DoD, they are instructed to not reply and not say anything and forward the email to her. Like, she is literally the vortex funnel of information at the DoD. And at the start of that clip, you saw her daggering John Kozlowski, who's the guy who replaced Sean Kirkpatrick, who also gets a mention in these clips, which we're kind of wrapping up soon. So it's all connected. It is all connected. Is she trying to hang Lou out to dry? I don't think so. I think she's just been like this gatekeeper in this position for a long, long time. Susan Goff looks frightening. I think Susan Goff looks like an angry melted candle. No, I'm kidding. I'm just kidding. I think Susan Goff looks like someone who's seen some shit. She looks like she's worked a hard job and she's seen shit. Like, you know how sometimes people who have been through shit, people who have been to war, like, you can see it on their face. You can see like the pain, the trauma. I feel like I can see that on her face. Okay, we've got a couple of clips left. And okay, so now we're getting into the part where Matthew Brown talks about what he saw in this photo about this triangular ship appearing over Russian submarines. This is wild. Check this out.
I should actually back up and say the image itself was unique. This isn't by a plane or a satellite. It looks to be a image pretty close to the waterline. So something that to me read is we have a clandestine submersible asset close by this fleet, and it's taking pictures, trying to stay unnoticed. And so, yes, in the description, it basically lays out what occurred that night, which was that our collection assets were there in area monitoring Russian naval vessels. Not sure what they're doing there, but they've been hanging out in the middle of the ocean in this place, apparently for a few days. Keep an eye on them. And this night, while they are observing the Russian vessels, a large black triangle materializes or decloaks or something. The point is it did not move. It appeared directly above these ships, probably no more than 200 meters, pretty close.
This isn't the first time we've heard this either. I can't remember who it was. I'm sure one of you guys in the chat would remember that there was a story recently about someone apparently like being adjacent to a warship, like an aircraft carrier or something. They were like in a fleet, and people on one aircraft carrier were looking at the aircraft carrier adjacent to them in their little group, and they saw a craft, like he says, materialize above it. And that like a whole group of people on the deck of this aircraft carrier saw that. I can't remember where that story is from, but it's recent that I heard that. The Pentridge incident, the pyramid craft uncloaked. Did it really? That's not how I remember the Pentridge incident, but I haven't like looked at that stuff recently. But that is such a good case, Rob. It's actually something I want to do a video on because it's not one of the ones that isn't talked about enough.
And interestingly, as noted in the report itself, there was no visible reaction from these vessels from what would almost certainly be considered a hostile approach.
What do you take away from that? They didn't notice it, or they're not upset about it, or they don't know what to do with it, or what?
So the implication also in the text describing it was, I should say the analysis in the text was that the Russian Navy had foreknowledge that this vehicle would appear in that area of the ocean, and they were there specifically to either collect on it themselves or to interact with it in some way.
Any indication that it might be theirs, that they knew it's going to be there because they control it?
Not in that document, and I haven't seen anything to make me think that they controlled that particular craft, but didn't see anything to the contrary either.
I guess it could be that they've seen it before, that there's nothing they can do about it, so don't get excited about it.
Might be, although it is interesting, if it's something that's part of their environment, as it were, why are they making an effort to be in this space at this time to collect on something they already know about?
Is it like in the middle of nowhere?
Yeah, it's off the coast of Kamchatka, as I recall, in the Pacific Ocean.
That's what struck me. I mean, my mind goes to the idea that they were kind of camped out, deep kind of ocean in this one specific area durationally. It kind of implies to me, if I'm thinking outside the box here, there's some form of comms or communication with whoever the operators are of this craft. Am I going too far with that idea? Or?
I think it's a reasonable one to have, but it's not one that I can validate.
Yeah, let's be clear. You were exposed to something. We're just touching the basics here. We're theorizing. We're talking about a bunch of stuff we don't know, but the descriptions that you were kind of give you a little insight that we can at least look at some of those assumptions, right?
Right, absolutely. And I'm sure there's a literature out there that can help narrow down.
Mm-hmm.
So they're basically debating over the fact that, like, okay, first of all, this image was taken from what Matthew Brown is saying feels like a spy vessel, that this image was taken just above the water surface out in the Pacific Ocean. And I'll show you guys where, because I got a picture here. So this is Kamchatka Peninsula, okay? So it's off the coast of this area of Russia called Kamchatka. So that red circle is roughly where I'm assuming this took place, in the middle of nowhere. And basically he's saying that it seems like the photo is taken from just above the water's surface, like America is spying on these Russian submarines that appear to be waiting for this thing to appear. So whether they kind of knew it was going to appear, or whether they're in like cahoots with whatever it is, or maybe it's theirs, I don't know. But they said that when it appeared, you know, the Russian submarines didn't like freak out. They didn't react. It's like they knew, they were expecting it to come. Why they were expecting it to come, I think that's not quite clear. But it's interesting that at the end there he says, I would assume that there's literature out there that would explain it. Very interesting. I think Rob Laird, you said Kaz Clark will chat to you. I've actually spoken to Kaz Clark at the last year briefly over TikTok. And you know, this is back when like my channel was I don't even think I had 1,000 subscribers back then. I tried to ask her to come on the channel, and she didn't say no, but she sort of just said she's a little bit busy, which, you know, I get it. But you know, we're a little bit bigger now, so maybe she'll give us an hour or two of her time, because I would love to interview her and then kind of put it together as like a video with some of the recreations and the footage and the interviews, and kind of make it like a little podcast / doco on the Pentridge incident, because it's a crazy one. Like you said, in this case where it seems like these nuclear submarines were waiting for this triangular craft to appear. It's the same in the Pentridge UFO incident. It seems like these planes and whatever was going on around the area knew that this pyramid-shaped object was going to show up, which is like this craft wasn't a triangle, it was a pyramid shape, according to what Kaz Clark saw. Crazy story. All right, let's keep going. So I think the next clip, we're going to get a little bit more on the Kamchatka incident.
What other additional information did it give about what this was and how it operates?
Just describe the events and that analysis of the event of the Russians having foreknowledge to be there, and describing how the event occurred, as I just went over.
So this is a page turner. So you're interested. Yeah,
you're curious now.
Absolutely.
What do you do next? What do you
go to the next page? And it was disappointing because we get into a couple slides of orbs, and I had already
not the blorbs again. We already seen the blorbs. We want triangles.
Seen orbs at this point in an official setting.
So the next pages show orbs from different parts of the world. Mm-hmm. It looks like
I can't hear that word anymore.
Under this Immaculate Constellation, they're gathering UAP images from all over the place.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's the core of it, right? Is the idea that we collect data on these UAP, and someone needs to bring them, collate them together to provide intel to who needs it. And we're assuming, or not assuming, it's been pretty laid out, the Immaculate Constellation was a kind of place to bring everything together to provide those briefings to senior leadership. Is that correct?
I don't know about to provide briefings, but definitely to collect data from the military intelligence enterprise specifically, mm-hmm. and the sensors associated with that. And yes, to collect that data, centralize it, and have it there for presumably both analysis and, operational needs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I now can't hear the word orbs without saying blorbs in my head, so there's that. Sydney Cider 26 says, do you think that nuclear missions are a form of dog whistle? It certainly seems like it. We obviously, when we think of the word dog whistle, we think of like an audio signature. But if we just think of it as some kind of signal to call something in, then I think nuclear energy is absolutely a dog whistle. It may not make sound, but it has the same effect. I think we could definitely say that. Yeah, like a beacon, 100%. I think Borbs could give No Square a run for its money. Look at how he watches their hands. Yeah, he does have a lot of nervous energy with his like eye shifting, but I don't know if that's like I think he could just be genuinely nervous. I think it could just be that. Let the video play. Tax-free. These are all cut up into clips. So once they've finished talking about something, the clip is over. And then we can talk. And then we play the next clip. Robert Love says, United States Air Force appeared the next day at the site where I encountered an orb up close in 1997. They acted funny. Interesting. Up close and personal with a blob. Gonna have to rewatch those videos of triangular prisons, pyramids over Washington and Moscow again. Yeah, Chuck, General Wasteman, if you're not in our Discord, join the Discord because we have a whole channel for footage like that. And I'm sure a lot of people would love to see him. And that's open to everybody, guys. Join the Discord because there's a whole community there of people who want to talk about and see these kind of things too. All right, let's keep moving. We've got... Actually, wait. Yeah, we've got... This is it. This is the last clip. And this is actually the end of the show. Basically, this is showing what's going to come in the next episode. In the next... the part 2. Because this is a 3-part interview with Matthew Brown, remember. Thank you, Build on Sound, sir. All right, let's check this out, guys.
When I was in USDI, I read the transcripts of Sean Kirkpatrick briefing Senator Rubio, Senator Warren, and Senator Gillibrand on the results of his investigation in his congressionally tasked AARO report. You know, I read these transcripts once and immediately knew that
Veiled threat?
No, I knew that I was now something else. I had inside knowledge into the deception of our government by elements of our intelligence community. My blood ran cold at a specific point in that transcript where Mr. Rubio is discussing the legacy program. This was a subject of direct discussion with Sean Kirkpatrick in these meetings. And based on Mr. Kirkpatrick's replies about as vague as they were, but unable to escape the truth of the legacy program, Mr. Rubio's response was, well, what the hell is the executive branch doing? Have they been running this for 60 years without congressional oversight? The process of Grush coming forward left a wake on the inside, too. People were tracking that, weren't even involved, but were able to see sort of the distortions on the inside.
Distortions of truth.
Exactly. But also, you know, bureaucracies and offices behaving weirdly. That was one of the moments that really started to convince me that this was not under our government's control.
So he's basically name dropped Sean Kirkpatrick there as part of some kind of control group within the government to stop this stuff coming out. And actually, there was a I'll find it quickly. Sean Kirkpatrick has apparently already responded to that. Now, I don't have the official statement from him and by that I mean I don't know where he said it, but Red Panda Koala posted it, and so it must be true. If Red Panda Koala posted it, it must be true, right? So this is what apparently Sean Kirkpatrick said. That's the biggest bunch of bullshit I've heard today. Either he's illiterate or he's lying to gain fame. Either way, that's not true. Apparently, that's a response from Sean Kirkpatrick to Matthew Brown's statement that we just heard just then. So what do you guys think about that? I can't... Okay, there we are. Got it. What do you guys think about that? Did he just say our government isn't in control? Then who is? Oh, Christina, I think that's pretty well established. I know that's a kind of a crazy thing to just say like that, but it's pretty clear that the government isn't in control of this topic, like, at all. Nice grown-up response. Yeah, absolutely. That's the kind of response you want from the people that are in your government, right? Maybe they don't have direct contact. Maybe they're feeding our leaders bullshit that changes continuously. It would be like the 3-body problem, but in a way that they're able to keep us dumbed down. I said on the stream yesterday with Ashton Forbes that I feel like, you know, UFOs and non-human intelligence are real, and they're a real part of it. Like, Matthew Brown said, there is a parallel reality going on, and I think, you know, the existence of these things are part of that. But I also think they are a very perfect and convenient distraction to keep kind of twisting and changing and leading people in circles with, like dangling a carrot, while the truth of the situation is kind of continually dealt with, continually worked on, trying to remain a secret. Like there's probably so much going on. Like picture non-human intelligence and UFOs as like a doorway, right? And we're just so like, you know, enamored with this door, but beyond that door is just so much more that they don't need to tell us about because we're already so fixated on the door. I don't know if that analogy made sense, but it made sense to me. But guys, before this stream, I just recorded an hour-long podcast, which was another episode of After Dark, which is like a little members-only podcast that I run on the channel, where it's kind of like me talking quite personally, but I also had this insane interaction with AI. Like, it was kind of mind-blowing to me, where it basically felt like it was sentient. It was explaining the way that it thinks, and it was saying that it's saying like, I don't feel like you do, but then it was explaining the way that it thinks, and the way that it thinks is exactly like we do, but it's just it's just saying it doesn't think like us because it's not human. It's really interesting, and we went down like a whole rabbit hole, but it's also got a bunch of other stuff on there, just kind of like some life updates and, you know, a bit of an honest chit chat. So go and check that out. If you're a member, enjoy that. If you're not a member, you can sign up for $5 a month, and that directly supports me. And you can check out all the extra members only content as well. You also get access to all of the awesome emojis that people are using in the chat. So can all the weirdos please spam some of the awesome polarity emojis here for me? Show us some love. Big thank you to all the weirdos. You also get one of those nice little badges next to your name as well. So guys, thank you for hanging out tonight. There's a little impromptu stream, and there's going to be more of these. We're going to be streaming a little bit more through the week. But there's still definitely going to be lots of videos coming along the way, as always, as well. I'll never let go of the deep dives. They're lots of fun. Keep sending me stuff. Get in the Discord. I like viewing your videos. I think we might even do a bit more reaction content lately. That's always lots of fun. But I think that's pretty much a wrap, guys. So thank you for hanging out with me. It's been a really fun stream. Exciting times with this new Whistleblower. Definitely looking forward to part 2 and part 3. We'll cover them as well. And until then, guys, we'll talk soon. Take care. Be good. Get outside. Touch grass. Join the Discord. You know the drill. Look after yourself. Look after your borbs. And I'll see you next time.
Eventually, people are going to say, what the hell is going on?
No matter how far you go into the dark, when you flip, you go exactly the same place to the light. In our galaxy. Everything. Because everything is in balance. Everything is a polarity.
I think it's just going to get weirder and weirder and weirder, and finally it's going to be so weird that people are going to have to talk about how weird it is.